Alright, so what's poppin'? Welcome back to Maxify Seminar, and today we are kind of just gonna do a bit of a discussion type video regarding Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Studios, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so what is Marvel doing?
What is Marvel doing
what are they
right
thinking?
now?
That's my question.
So, this is especially regarding the last two movies that Marvel's released.
Which right now it is Shang Chi and Eternals just came out.
Yes, and we watched them both. We both have some very different opinions on them. And so we just want to kind of work through them. We didn't want to do like a formal review of each because
that would take way too long.
I think it would take way too long. I'm not sure if there's like, it would take a long time, but also at the same time, there's not enough to say about them without comparing them to each other and like putting them in the context of what's happening right now.
Yeah, so we're just going to do everything.
I think the main thing is the context is what we need.
We should point out we are completely caught up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes, which is increasingly hard to do.
We have seen all the movies except we watched like half of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then we were done. And I have not seen Incredible Hulk, but that's not really relevant to what we're talking about right now.
No, not really. So yeah, we're completely caught up to anything we need to be. So first of all, I think we should address Shang-Chi, because this came out about a month ago. I was recording this.
So we have very different opinions on Shang-Chi.
Yes. So do you want to go first?
Yes. I would like to say that like, I was disappointed. Not to, like, call out Marvel, but it seemed like a lot of it seemed forced. Do you agree?
I agree with a lot of it feeling forced, for sure. Especially, there was some comic relief in the movie that did not work for me. And I have a similar problem with Eternals, but it's a different part of the humor was messed up in the Eternals, I think. At least for me. But I thought Shang-Chi was refreshing to see. We're done with, Endgame and everything, and placing it in that context of we're finished up with Endgame or rolling into Phase 4, and here we have us starting something new. Exactly.
Right.
The world, the universe at least, is not at stake in this movie. It's kind of a fun, goofy adventure, and that's nice that Marvel can get back to its roots with that.
That is good. But after just watching all the shows and expecting maybe a movie like trying to explain like what's going on with the timeline, what's like gonna happen with Loki, I was kind of disappointed because it was just something new.
Yeah.
And maybe that wasn't the studio's fault. Maybe it was COVID's fault.
I think the COVID pushback onto Marvel's like perfectly meticulously constructed release schedule is really what messed up the tone of Shang-Chi for the way I viewed it.
That's exactly.
Because like I said before, in the context of following Endgame, Shang-Chi works very well because it's a refreshing like restart of tone with this kind of like a tone very much like Shazam, I thought.
Yeah,
was what I agree. What I liked. And that was nice for a break in DC. And it would have been nice for a break in Marvel, too, after having Endgame and all this. But unfortunately, the shows got crammed in before Shang-Chi, and we had this whole different context where the mind space of your Marvel viewer is, instead of like, oh, wow, that's all over, it's like, new stuff is happening, what is going on?
What's happening next?
Yeah, we've got like Loki doing this stuff. WandaVision brings up these questions.
And then Shang-Chi didn't build on it.
Yeah, it kind of just existed as itself, and that's not what I think Marvel needed at that point. And so it's not like this is any fault on, like really any part of the filmmaking process in particular, except for scheduling. The scheduling of, and this is a kind of a new problem in cinema with a massive franchise like this where everything's tied in, a shared universe. You have tonal issues that come from where it's posited in the schedule that you just can't really avoid. Overall though, I thought Shang-Chi had some really good parts. The bus fight I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I enjoyed all the choreography in this movie.
Yeah, there were some great practical fights in this movie, which was really a great change from stuff that Marvel's done in the past.
It did seem a little bit like the Mortal Kombat movie.
It did, but I think in a good way,
yes.
because it had the like real like weight to fights again, which was nice. Like something maybe
It's
not
not
quite
like-
like Daredevil, but better than in Black Widow.
Yeah, it's not just like, two gods fighting against each other. It's like actual people.
Until you get to the ending, which kind of did the Marvel thing of bringing in a massive CGI fight at the end. Which,
speaking of CGI, there was an overabundance of CGI in this movie, and none of it, or not most of it, was needed. Like, I can't think of an example, but there was things where I just saw they were CG, and I was like, why even have that CG? There's no point.
There were definitely parts in Shang-Chi like that, with just like CG clutter sometimes, that was distracting, kind of George Lucas-esque.
Yeah.
Almost. But CG is a good segue to get us into our Marvel's next movie, The Eternals, which came out, I think it's still in theaters at this point. It came out a couple of weeks ago. We also have very different opinions on Eternals.
You can go first.
Okay. I don't think any Marvel movie has been bad so far. I don't think of any Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, and this is incredible. Not a single one is actually what I would call bad. I think at the very least, it's like a good movie. Like it's good. Like,
yeah,
there are movies out there that are much poorer quality that are on a similar level, but I don't think there has been a bad one yet. But I think the closest we've got to a non-good Marvel movie is The Eternals. I did not think this movie worked at all, structurally and storytellingly.
Yeah, so the storytelling was a little bit, I would just say messed up, because they had to tell the past and the present at the same time, or it wasn't going to make sense.
And there's really no way to tell a story like that.
It seems jumpy.
And yeah, it results in it being very jumpy. You're going through the present timeline, back to a different time, like in the Middle Ages, and then all of a sudden you're 100 years in the future, but still not at the present. Then you go back to the other point before. It's like it's just a real jumbled mess of a story. And the problem is there's no real way I can think of where you can restructure this and make it work with the story they went with without having that. And so
maybe it was just bad script
kind
writing.
of just fundamentally flawed in the story. And I think if The Eternals was made into a show or like a mini series for Disney Plus even,
I think that would have been good.
It would have let them have more time to develop all these different threads they wanted to develop.
And then they can jump around per episode and it doesn't seem jumpy because
Exactly.
It's just a new episode.
But the movie overall seemed just it made it feel very long, and I didn't think that was a good thing. And then circling back to the humor, I thought
the humor was better in this than Shang-Chi.
But the editing around the humor was really weird, and so it gives me the feeling that the editing team for the Eternals was almost trying to get rid of that Marvel humor that is so like that bathos kind of Marvel humor that
like,
we always talk about.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I would see, especially with one character would say a joke, then rather than having that lingering moment of where the joke becomes that bathos humor, like this is awkward and the audience laughs, it cuts away, and that was a weird, like very awkward construction for a joke in editing.
Yeah. There was a couple things forced in this movie. I can't really say any of it without giving spoilers away, but there were stories they had to tell apart from the main story because of like little things, and then they just had to have them pay off or else it wasn't going to be right, and it just ended up just...
Exactly, and setting up new stuff for what Marvel's doing in the future here with their stuff going forward, setting up new things. Again, it felt like, just like certain elements of Shang-Chi, a little bit forced.
But I think this movie was better than Shang-Chi. But I know, Max, you don't have.
I don't know.
Opinion.
It's hard for me to put an opinion on it. I think Shang-Chi was good as itself, not as part of Marvel.
Viewed it, yeah. Okay.
I like what Eternals brings to the Marvel, playground, I guess. But I don't think it works as a movie by itself. It's hard to get through, I think, and I don't feel like I need to watch it again.
It felt very forced, a lot of things. And it's like the characters were named after these Greek mythology things, and they had to put in, like, every single story from Greek mythology into the movies. And it was like, you don't need to do that. But
yeah, they could have cut some stuff that was just kind of obvious character building type stuff.
But yeah.
Some
Moving on.
CG in the movie too. There's one moment especially.
Oh yes.
It's a scene at a dinner table. God, that was some of the worst CG I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
it
wasn't that
I don't
bad,
know,
but it was just off.
Unfinished or something. I don't.
Let's move on to shows.
So
now this
was the biggest thing, is why these movies were so disappointing to me, was that comparing them to the quality we got from Disney Plus Marvel shows over the past year.
Yeah, it was just a downgrade.
It's painful. It really is, because all of those shows are incredible, and all of them explored new directions for Marvel, which were really cool to see.
And that's why it was kind of, like I said, it was kind of a letdown, seeing these other two movies, because
Shang-Chi really was kind of a return to form, fighting your evil dad in a CGI, eye exploding fight at the end with a very structural type structure, I guess. Very bathos humor again.
And also, you were waiting for the payoff of the shows. Not that they didn't, they used payoffs in the shows, but you were waiting to see what Kang was going to do in the future, or Loki, or what's going to happen with the universes, but there was just none of that. And again, that's the problem with the timeline, the structure.
The COVID
because
release
of COVID,
schedule.
yeah.
It's unfortunate. But also, I think internally, there is something along the idea of anticipating something that works so much better in the series, where in WandaVision you have this constant,
you're always waiting for the next
what is
episode.
happening. I don't know what's going to happen next. I want to know what's going to happen at the end, and at the end it's a payoff, and it's like, wow, that was great. In the movies, it doesn't work quite as well,
and there's not enough time to do it.
And maybe it's always been a problem with Marvel, and maybe now we're just now noticing it because we've had the shows. But I think that the shows work a lot better for a format for what Marvel wants to do.
Really, Marvel is just a series of movies.
It is. It's something that's constantly prioritizing future content, and that's something that is traditionally something that a series or a TV show would do. And so I think that's why Marvel works so well.
Yeah, exactly.
Where after having the shows and having that building anticipation, payoff, but still tease for season 2 or tease for Doctor Strange 2 or whatever, in the movies instead it's just build for 90 minutes, and then you get
nothing. You just get, I'm waiting for the next movie.
We've got new characters now, and something's gonna happen in the next movie.
You're kind of just, you come out with more questions than answers.
Maybe it's that the Marvel formula is tired, and that's something that has been being thrown around since the beginning of COVID, since before that maybe society, maybe culture is getting tired of this whole idea of franchising, like how Marvel has done with a shared universe. And I think the shows revitalized that and have kind of rekindled interest in that series type format. But then returning to the movies, it starts to feel more like this isn't working.
But a problem with shows is they get old. For example, The Flash on Netflix is like basically the same season over and over with different bad guys.
But I think what Disney Plus is doing with their Marvel shows is very different from that.
But it is possible to mess up a show like that.
Definitely. I think if they try to get repeat too much, which we did talk about in our review for You Season 2, things are going to get repetitive if they try to push for more seasons. Like, I don't know if a WandaVision Season 2 is something that should or could work.
I think once they have done a show, they need to then do a movie of that show. Or, like, as the sequel of that show, make it a movie.
Maybe.
I'm not sure how...
It's an interesting landscape right now for Marvel with this cross-platform stuff going on. It's going to be very interesting to see where they go next.
I'm not sure, what they're heading towards, but we will see. There has been teasing of future movies or maybe shows to come out, like in Eternals, but that's a spoiler, so can't get into that.
But speaking of, what Marvel's got slated up next is very exciting stuff that is maybe going to start tying into the shows. So maybe stuff that's going to start feeling a little bit more smooth. I think this Shang Chi and Eternals little road bump is going to be the end, hopefully, of any slowing that's happened with the COVID release schedule.
We're kind of out of the rut of the COVID disaster upon movies.
I think so. And I think Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Doctor Strange are going to be... I think those are going to be really cool, how they tie in with the multiverse stuff that's been brought up with the Disney Plus shows. And I think, hopefully, this is going to be a new direction for Marvel that is cool and interesting. And also we have Morbius coming up as well. That's a new direction. That's another one that might feel like Shang-Chi, though, where it's like, this is kind of coming out of nowhere. I don't know what this is going to be. That's another one that might be suffering from the COVID pushback.
It does build on some things that were noted in Eternals, so it's not completely out of the gate. So, who knows?
It'll be exciting to see, and I think we should probably do an update video on what Marvel is doing.
After Hawkeye comes out.
Yeah, coming in a few months. Hawkeye came out this morning. Optimistic about that. We'll see what's happening, what's developing with the Marvel world as we go forward. Anyways, this has been a bit of an informal Maxify seminar, breaking down what's been going on with Marvel lately and our thoughts on what we think is going to be happening soon. And I've been Max.
I've been Blake. This has been Maxify Seminar.
And we'll see you in the next one.